What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're going to jump in and talk about the Bastion quest. So, of course this is one of the new exotics we'll be getting in Season of Dawn, arriving on the 28th of January. And there is some pretty useful prep that you can do right now, so we'll talk about that. We're going to speak about all of the steps, locations, and tips for how you can get through the bulk of the quest nice and easy once it drops. But also, considering our current investigation into the corridors of time, there are some really interesting things to touch on there. There's a reprise strike and a few other things to talk about related to the quest as well. So guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video, but now let's get straight into it. We are going to go over everything that we know about the quest in just a moment, and I will timestamp that section of the video below. One of the most useful things to know about and prep for when Bastion arrives on January 28th is part of the quest which requires spider bounties to be completed. So we can see we do need to get 10 spider bounties done, and this is during the quest, and so if clearing that quest relatively quickly on day one is something that you want to do, it's absolutely best to get some of those saved now. So essentially pick them up, complete them, and hold on to them ready for the quest. Because while they won't take absolutely forever, they'll definitely eat into the time running the quest. And there are going to be other steps which also take a little bit of time, so it's absolutely one to think about. It's also worth mentioning that, of course, we do have to buy these bounties with ghost fragments, so it should cost 20 ghost fragments from the Tangled Shore to purchase the cheapest tier of spider bounties. And if you need fragments, of course, they come from patrols and public events in the Tangled Shore, and the bounties themselves then send us off around the system to find targets in various lost sectors and things like that. So it will be a pretty decent time saver, even if you only have the time to get the 20 ghost fragments you'll need saved for now. It's definitely better than spending an hour or more messing around with that on launch day. And so with that pointed out initially, let's talk about the rest of the quest itself. We'll touch on the guide for all of the sections in a moment, but firstly, we need to talk about the Chronometric weapon core, as this is one of the main mystery items of the Bastion quest at the moment. And primarily, that's because we don't know exactly how or when we're actually going to get it. So what we do know is that it will drop in the corridors of time, and this is stated on one of the quest steps for Bastion. And considering all of the activities for the Bastion quest are already visible in the database according to the steps, you know, we can see a specific version of the Hollowed Lair Strike, for example, just for the quest. And when it comes to corridors of time, we have 3 different versions in the database, so we've got part 1 and part 2, and these are the story missions, and then we've also got Exploring the Corridors of Time, which is the current kind of puzzle mission the community are doing at the moment. So it does seem most likely to me, based on what we can see, that Corridors of Time, while it may have its own exotic reward, right, this exotic sword, heavy weapon, Sync 14 related thing, whatever folks are speculating about, it looks like it's actually going to house numerous different things and not just one more item. And now, to talk about the quest steps. Presumably, with that chronometric weapon core in hand, we'll need to go and speak to Sync 14 in the tower. This is where he tells us that the light frequency we're chasing aligns with not only those of the sundial, but also the chronometric core that we recovered from Corridors of Time. And we'll need to hunt down fallen captains and servitors anywhere in the Tangled Shore to collect intel to help decipher their comms chatter, and to find out what the Fallen know about the anomaly. So we need to get 5 Fallen intel dropped, and a really fast way to get this section out of the way is most likely going to be to load into Thieves' Landing in the Tangled Shore, and we're going to have to speak to Spider shortly after this step, so it's worth being nearby. But immediately off spawn in Thieves' Landing, you'll often see a captain on the right hand side right here. If you go from this location and head to near the start of the Hollowed Lair Strike, you will quite often see a servitor spawn in, so check these spots as you come through. But otherwise, if we head into the nearby lost sector, the Empty Tank, this is the one closest to that initial spawn. In the first room with enemies, there is a servitor, so if we kill him really quickly, it'll let us interact with the console at the back of the room, and this opens the door that spawns a captain. So if you kill him immediately, and then respawn on Thieves' Landing and repeat the process, it should be fairly easy to get this done. We may need 5 kills, that is unless the intel drops are randomized, and then obviously we'll be running this for just a little bit longer, but this is probably going to be the easiest way to do it. Once we have the intel though, we need to go and speak to the Spider, and he's going to give us the lead for an enemy called Axinix, and this guy can be found in the Empty Tank lost sector, and that's the same one immediately in Thieves' Landing, and so I'll have to go into this lost sector and find Axinix somewhere along the way. Upon confronting him, he'll actually drop a note, which we'll need to return to the Spider, so Spider's going to take a look at that, and in order to encourage more information to leak out amongst the Fallen, he'll give us a few different quest steps to do on the Tangled Shore, so we'll need to kill 30 challenging enemies, complete 10 spider bounties, as well as clearing 8 public events. Of course, for the spider bounties, hopefully, you're going to have some saved, but otherwise, you can purchase them from the Spider with ghost fragments from the Tangled Shore, and once again these drop in public events and patrol missions. If you purchase the lowest tier of spider bounties onwards, you're only going to need 20 fragments to buy all of them, so bear that in mind, and if you can prep for it, it's totally worth it. Otherwise, public events are also required according to the quest log, so we are going to need 8 of those in the Tangled Shore, which will definitely be a couple of loops around the map, so expect this to take a little bit of time. And that is another reason in itself that it's good to stash the spider bounties and even extra ghost fragments, so that we're not spending our time trying to do both and of course, taking longer in the process. We're also going to have to get 30 challenging enemy kills during this step, and this should be pretty achievable during the public events, especially if you have something like the Cabal Cryopod public event. That's got a lot of yellow bars, but if you have any left over, then I'm sure Lost Sectors and things like that will come in pretty handy. Now, by completing these tasks, it looks like we're going to earn another lead, this time to investigate Trapper's Cave in Fourhorn Gulch. And specifically, it does say that we'll be searching for a grave within the Lost Sector. Not sure if that's going to have its own marker, but it could potentially be hidden. Didn't manage to find anything obvious going in before the update, but nonetheless, after visiting Trapper's Cave, we'll discover some new intel with the whereabouts of Saint 14's old weapon, Bastion. So, the enemy we hunted at the grave has turned Twisted Scorn Chieftain, and he's now going to be found with Saint 14's light signal pulsing to him in a memento version of the Hollowed Lair. So this is going to be a separate version of the strike, and according to the database, it says the strike will be match made, and the power level requirement listed for it is 750 power, but that does have the potential to be updated or changed before the quest actually drops, so bear that in mind. However, the target that we need to neutralize inside of the strike is Rayusk, the Waning Light, and it would appear that after we confront him, we'll go back to Saint 14, who ultimately gives us the weapon. So you've returned Saint 14's old fusion rifle, Bastion, to him. He fiddles with the rifle briefly and sets the damaged connection straight with the component you had. The rifle hums to life, and he thanks you for finding the source of his light, and laments that his weaponry was used against Guardians. Never again, he whispers, before handing the gun back, and of course, that is where we actually get Bastion. So, thought it would be cool to give you guys a bit of a heads up about some of those steps that are worth prepping for, especially considering this is one of the slightly longer quests for this season, of course outside of the Corridors of Time itself, but of course Bastion does come with the perk Saint's Fists, where it charges to fire 3 spreads of kinetic slugs. And from there you also have Breakthrough, where a portion of the weapon's damage bypasses elemental shield, so it's definitely going to be one that performs quite a bit differently to weapons we've seen in the past. And from some leaked gameplay that I spoke about in a video recently, I will link that one down below by the way, but it sort of had a full auto or burst firing style, which is pretty cool. Obviously it is also a kinetic weapon, and it does have that capability to kind of cut through shields, so it might actually turn out to be particularly good in certain match game content. And then of course in terms of the sandbox you can play around with other things. You've got stuff like Disruption Break, and also something worth pointing out about the gameplay that we see of the Bastion, and from the database, is that it can have 5 rounds in the magazine, but the 3 spreads of kinetic slugs that actually fire from the weapon. With 5 rounds, it will actually fire a total of 16 slugs, which is pretty interesting. We'll see how it performs in the game, and seeing as it is one of Saint 14's weapons from a lore perspective, I'm pretty curious to see if there's any additional story we get around that too. And so, there we go guys, that's everything we know about Bastion for the moment. I guess that is with the exception of the Bloodline Memorial, which is the exotic ornament for Bastion, which presumably will be dropping via Eververse, so if you like the look of that one, you might want to put a bit of silver aside. I say dropping from Eververse, but of course it will likely be a purchase. So that's that one for now guys, and a little extra tidbit right here. Of course, Bungie did patch the Wish Ender this week in one of the hotfixes. That removed the glitch where the weapon was doing 4 times damage, however, it also enabled another bug where you can now fire projectiles from the weapon through certain things in the game, say foliage for example, and apparently even some holographic emotes and things like that. And when you do it, it actually duplicates the rounds from the weapon a bunch of times, to where it essentially does 12 times damage. So that's a pretty bizarre one and obviously a bit more situational. Maybe something to play around with and look up as we wait for the Corridors of Time and of course the separate Bastion quest to pop up. But guys, I hope the video has been interesting and of course will be useful when the quest actually launches, as well as getting prep and stuff like that done. And so if you guys have enjoyed this one, a rating below is very much appreciated. If you're new around here, be sure to hit that subscribe button so I can keep you up to date with everything related to the game. I super appreciate all of you guys who tune in on a daily basis and have shown me support here on the channel. A lot of you guys know that we're currently renovating a house, and I'm going to give a quick update on that, hopefully on the channel very soon. but it does require a massive amount of energy, and throughout the entire process it leaves me with a little bit less time to actually play Destiny and focus on work stuff, so I guess I feel a little bit guilty for that in some respects, but hopefully we are just about riding that one through on the content front. And anyway guys, once again thank you so much for sticking around and showing that support, but otherwise, cheers for watching the video, and whatever you guys get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.